the Jewish and thank you the Jewish agency Sochnut for taking the inviting us to join them here today. Just a little bit of background on myself before we start. As I say, my name is Jonathan Gross. Many of you either live in Israel or coming or living in it or going to come and live in coming to live in Israel. So I consider myself to be an Oleh Hadash. Why am I an Oleh Hadash? Because I've only been here 35 years. I came from London in 1990, and I've been working in that time in many different banks. I've worked in Bank Leumi, Bank First International Bank, and for the last 28 years for Bank Mizrahi Tefahot. My job in the bank is I'm in charge of dealing with. I'm the head of the English desk, dealing with all the clients who are English from the English speaking countries. And obviously, the major English-speaking countries, of course, are America, England, South Africa, Australia, and Canada. But of course, I can see that on this webinar, there's quite a few other people from different countries where English is a spoken language. And my job is to help clients to basically to help them to join the bank, to provide them with some sort of a soft landing, so that when they come to Israel, they're able to. Coming to Israel on Aliyah is in itself quite a daunting task. It's quite difficult, but at the same time, the idea is, and of course, the financial and the banking issues are issues which need to be understood. So I hope within this short lecture, which is not going to be for an hour, but hopefully not much more than 20, 25 minutes, I will raise many ideas about the system, about a few ideas of what you need in order to prepare to bank in Israel, and I'll be very happy at the end. And if there are any questions that you have, you feel you need to ask at that time in the middle, I'll be happy to answer those questions as well. So, but I will answer all the questions at the end. So if you want to wait to the end, you're welcome to do that too. Okay, so as I said, I represent Mizrahi Tefahot Bank. Mizrahi Tefahot Bank is the third largest bank in Israel. The largest two are Olim and Leumi. Mizrahi Tefahot has almost 20% of the market share in commercial banking, well, private and commercial banking in Israel. However, we are the largest mortgage bank in Israel, and I will relate to that also later on in my presentation. It says here 34% of the market share. In fact, we have closer to 40% of the market share. Even though we're only the third largest bank, when it comes to mortgages, we are by far the largest bank in Israel. When it comes to foreign, we give mortgages to both Olim and foreign residents, and I'll relate to that. But when it comes to the foreign residents market, whilst we have 40% of the general mortgage market, we have over 70% of the foreign resident market. The foreign resident market means any person who's a foreign resident who's looking to buy property in Israel. We have many branches in Israel. We have about between 120 to 150 branches, but because the whole subject...
ג'וני, סליחה, אם אתה התקדמת בשקופיות, אז בינתיים אנחנו בראשון, רק שתדע, כן?
שנייה אחת, מה זה הראשונה? Banking in Israel?
כן, כן.
הקדמתי באמת, אוקיי, so כנראה זה לא...
Exit full screen mode and we will see the regular application. In full screen mode we can see.
Do you see now?
Yeah, great. Wonderful.
Okay, now you see it. Thank you, Michael. I appreciate that. And thank you for quoting. Okay, so we have many branches in, I was just saying, we have many branches all around the country, but because they're dealing with foreign residents and Olim Chadashim, you need a special type of branch. Why? Because there are all sorts of different tax issues. As I'm sure many of you know that the first 10 years, an Oleh Hadash comes to Israel, he doesn't pay tax on money that he brings into Israel. And when it comes to deposits, you have 20 years, a tax holiday for 20 years on deposits. And therefore, you need to deal with a branch that can actually understand your needs and requirements. And therefore, all the banks in Israel only have certain branches that can open accounts. So it's very possible that you, as an Oleh Hadash, you may go into a branch and you may ask to open an account. And they say, I'm sorry, we're not able to open account for Oleh Chadash, and they will then have to refer you to another branch around the country that does deal with Olim Chadashim. In Mizrahi Tefahot, we have almost 30 branches that deal with Olim and foreign residents. We have 4 international private banking centers. Now, those are really private banking, which deal with clients who are looking for to bring larger amounts to Israel. Often they will be something in the region of 500,000 shekel and upwards. That's compared to some of the other banks, that's quite small. There are many private banking banks in Israel, other banks that are asking for much larger. They can be asking for $1 million or even more than that. We ask for 500,000 shekel, not dollars, and this is private banking, is really private banking where it's a much more of a personal service. You have a softer landing. You're able to really get someone speaking in the language. It's manned. The branch itself is manned by Olim Chadashim themselves, like myself. Either we speak different languages, whether it's English, French, Spanish, Portuguese, a number of different, and also Russian, of course. Russian is also spoken by a number of our bankers in different branches. We are the other 24 to 25 branches are branches which are not private banking. They require smaller deposits, smaller amounts, but the service is is less of a private banking and more of a general current account and account where the majority of the workers are not necessarily English speakers or foreign language speakers, but they do have at least 1 or 2 people in there that can offer that service. So, of course, if one can allow yourself to be in a private banking branch, that's always preferable. I'm moving over to the next slide now. Can you see the next slide? Just, yeah, Hasya, yeah, I can see, yes. Thank you, Mikhail. Okay, excellent. So let me say what type of transactions can I do in a bank? Now, in Mizrahi, all the banks, when you open up an account, as opposed to out abroad, where sometimes you have to open up different accounts for different transactions and different accounts for different currencies. When you open up a account in Mizrahi Tefahot, it's a multi-purpose, multi-currency account. In other words, the account itself allows you to open to put money in there in all different currencies, whether it's a Russian currency or French or euros or British pounds or US dollars or Canadian dollars, Australian dollars, or whichever currency. You can hold them in the same account. It's the one account. You do not need to open up separate accounts for different currencies. Also, it's multi-purpose, which means it allows you to do all sorts of things. You can use it as a current account. You can use it as a deposit account. You can use it as an investment account. You can use it as take a mortgage loan on the account. It's a multi-purpose account, and it means it's much easier to use. You don't need separate accounts, and it's all connected to one account. As I say, transactions being able to be done here, deposit accounts, shekel, foreign currency, etc. Purchasing stocks and bonds. It's very possible if an Oleh Chadash in the first few months before, whilst his tax status is not totally clear, there may be certain restrictions. But once he has moved here and where he's now considered to be a taxpayer in Israel, he can basically buy and sell anything he wants: stocks, bonds, mutual funds, any types of investments. Mortgages I will relate to shortly on its own. Also, you can take a short-term loans. The banks give car loans. The banks give personal loans. They give business loans. You open up a business. The bank can give all sorts of loans in all different areas, and of course they require collateral in obviously against the loans. Sometimes the car itself can, for instance, be the collateral for a car loan. Credit cards. Now, credit cards I relate to on its own, but credit cards itself, Bank Mizrahi Tefahot offers all the credit card companies. You may find that some banks offer only they specialize in specific credit card companies, but Mizrahi can offer all of them, being therefore the Visa card, the MasterCard, the Max card, the American Express card. They also offer there's a card with a lot of points. I can't remember for the moment. Okay, no, there's many cards. They offer different cards. Anyway, currency conversions. Conversions obviously can be done also. Now, currency conversion is something which is often done. I will relate to that later on in my presentation, but currency conversions can be done in the branch. Often we find that clients have had the impression that the banks is not the place to do your currency conversions. If you are looking to do a large conversion, if you're doing a small conversion, it's possible that the exchange companies may be better off, maybe getting a better rate than the banks themselves. However, if you're doing a larger transactions, in my experience, you will always find the banks can be as competitive as any of the exchange companies, it's often a very much safer route. But I'll relate to that thing shortly. Options, forwards transactions. I mean, that's quite significant today because if we can see what's happened to just an example, the US dollar has gone down between 15 to 20% from the beginning of this year, beginning of 2025. So anyone who's earning in a foreign they are today working in Israel, but maybe earning abroad and earning in a foreign currency, it may make sense to put their money do a forward in order to guarantee the value of shekels, because one of the things that we all as Olim Chadashim have to realize is that today we are living in shekels. And even though we may have been used to living in other currencies from the country we came from, and automatically we find ourselves thinking in those currencies, it's obviously a mistake, and we have to think in currencies, the currency that we are living in, because that's what you go to the shops, that's what you're going to be charged in, and therefore it has to be taken into account. So if you are, for instance, anyone last year who was living off dollars earned in America and living here in Israel, will have lost 20% of their earnings by having, and therefore if they would have possibly had thought about it ahead and had taken a forward contract on future earnings, then they could have fixed in the rate of the dollar shekel, and they may have got what it was at the beginning of the year, about 390 or it was a bit less than that, 370, as opposed to 308, which is approximately what it's been the last recently time. Trade finance is obviously something that's also, if you're in that field, obviously that's more for people in the field of trade finance. And online banking. All the banks offer online banking. We offer it both in English and French, as well as Hebrew, of course. There is an app. The app at the moment is only available in Hebrew. We are working very hard to make that available in English as well, and we're hoping that should be in the next couple of months. But the website is available in English. It's fully available in English, and as an informative tool, it is very useful. You also can do many transactions using the website, but not everything is available. The app, of course, is the ideal way, and it's also the ideal way of contacting your banker. I related to Olim Chadashim, of course. One of the questions they have to ask themselves is, are they looking to buy property in Israel? Do they want to? There's always a thought: do I buy a property? Do I rent a property? We find the majority of Olim Chadashim tend to rent. If they haven't already bought something, they may rent for a year or two, whilst they're trying to find out whether the place they're living is the place they want to live in. And once they've found that this is the place, they then will refer there. They will then buy something. Now, as far as mortgages are concerned, as I said, we're the largest mortgages. There's a difference between a foreign resident and an Israeli resident. A foreign resident can get up to 50% loan to value of the property they are buying. So if they see a property for 5 million shekels, the maximum the bank could give a foreign resident is 2.5 million shekels, as opposed to an Israeli, someone who's an Oleh Hadash, or someone who has a Tudat Zahut. That person can get up to 75% loan to the value of the property that they're looking to buy. Now, most loans, what type of loans are there? There are all sorts of the types of loans. They can be a fixed loans. They can be a variable loan. They can be a loan in different currency, linked to certain currencies, linked to the euro, linked to the dollar. There are all different types of possibilities. And the whole subject of mortgages is a big subject on its own, which I'm happy to take questions, specific questions on that. But in this presentation, it doesn't allow me to present everything to do with the mortgages. The loans can normally be taken up. Loans can be on mortgages can be normally up to 30 years. Now, I'm often asked the question is how old or how young do I have to be in order to take a mortgage? Normally, the bank will give mortgages up to the age of 83 years old. So if a person comes on Aliyah at 65, he can probably get a 15-year mortgage at that point, which is quite. Now, they also, as I said, there's different types of variable and fixed. The best way to if a person is looking at this point to buy a property and would like to understand what type of loan the bank can offer him, then what we can offer you is an application form. We send you an application form where you put in your financial details. You present us the financial details that you have, your earnings, or if you're retired, or your savings, and based on that, we will be in a position to be able to tell you what type of loan we can give you. So even if you are not yet ready to buy a property, but you're only thinking about it, but you'd like to know what the bank could offer you in order for you to know what sort of monies you have with you today in order to buy a property, if you fill out the form and you send it to us, we can put in a request and tell you what, based on your, let's say if you're Israeli and you have 75%, how much we could offer you. Now, something which is very important is the bank never wants to see a situation of foreclosure. They don't want to be in a position where chas v'shalom, they have to ask you, you have to close, they have to buy back take your house from you. So as a result, the bank is very conservative when it comes to giving loans, and they want to make sure that the monthly payments that you would be paying on this mortgage wouldn't be more than up to 47% of your income. Now, of course, if you are post income, in other words, if you are retired and you have pension income and things like that, then that can be taken into account. That also we take that into account as well. It's obviously the loan mortgages are not just available for people who are working. Also, someone retired can also choose to take a mortgage. You can also take a part mortgage. Obviously, the 75% and the 50% are the maximums. They're not the minimums. You can take a 25%, 30%, depending on how much you would like to take. Okay, I've moved to my next slide. Do you see that, Michael? That we have to move to next. You see next slide? Thank you. Okay, excellent. Okay, so this is a question which comes up often, and I'd like to relate to this because I think it's a lot of people have been told, and I've seen it many times on social media, that people say, don't use the banks for foreign currency because they're not competitive. I do it outside. I'd like to present here why there are advantages of what's the advantage of often doing it in a bank as opposed to an exchange company. Number one is the banks are able to offer very competitive rates. And if you want to be sure, but if you want to test us, then ask for a rate and see how competitive we can be. Also, I've come across there are some exchange companies where they haven't got full security and they've gone to bankrupt. And if you go put money through a bank, you're dealing with something which is, something which is covered by the Israeli government, and it's a much secure method of transferring money. Also, something which I often find with moving money through exchange companies is that you may do exchange with them, and you may only see the money you may only see 3 or 4 days later in your account. If you change it into the bank, you get the money the same day often. If it comes, a transfer can be given to you the same day. They also don't use many correspondent banks. Often exchange companies, if you have your account in one particular bank and you use an exchange company that works with a different bank, that will just add to the amount of time till you see your money. Also, it offers a one-stop shop for all transactions, which also the banks do value loyalty. And when a client is using them for their transactions, they are very competitive. Also, it's a long-term relationship. When you open up a bank account in Israel, you're going to be there with them, please God, for many, many years. And therefore, it's an opportunity that the bank is there in order to provide you with your financial needs. And therefore, there's a certain element of, as I say from the last one, the loyalty is appreciated. A customer who wants to do most of his transactions with the banks, rather than using an exchange company, which is can often be a one-off transaction, the banks definitely would be encouraged and would appreciate the loyalty, and as a result, they will make it very much worthwhile for the client. Another problem that I've seen with people, and many of you maybe Olim or either Olim today or potential Olim who are looking to come, and the question is always often asked: what should I be bringing my money to Israel with me, or should I leave my money abroad? A lot of people are used to having their money where they've got a certain home bias to where they are, where they have become from, and often leave the money. I've even heard people have said to me they've been told not to bring the money to Israel. If you bring your money to Israel, you don't get the rights. You don't get your 10%. You don't get your special 10-year your 10-year holiday, not 10%. Sorry, your 10-year holiday. Well, let me tell you that is not the case. Yes.
Yeah, that's.
I'm sorry. Is there a question there? Did I just get a question there? No. Okay. I'm assuming not. If there's a question, please stop me and tell me. Okay. One of the mistakes I've heard people tell me is I don't bring my money to Israel because if I bring my money to Israel, I don't get a 10-year holiday. That is not true. If you bring your money to Israel and you put your money in a foreign investment, let's say you have foreign stocks, if you have foreign or you have foreign currency, you will not pay for 10 years. Well, if it's deposit for 20 years, you will receive tax-free tax on the interest. On the interest that you will pay, you will not pay tax on that. If you believe the money you bring in, you have to bring in your money within 90 days of bringing in the country. You need to invest the money. It's important not to leave the money out of the investment if you're looking to take advantage of the tax. The income tax company, the tax authorities in Israel allow you to have up to 90 days where you can decide to close the money up or not. And if you close your money up for a certain time, of course, you can close money in all sorts of deposits. You can close it in both foreign currency deposits and shekel deposits. But you should be aware that if you close your money on an investment, a shekel investment, unfortunately, at the moment, all shekel investments are taxed at source with 15% tax at source. It doesn't help, even if you're on Oleh Chadash or you're a foreign resident, you are taxed at source also on shekels. This is not the case for foreign currency. Foreign currency, you're not taxed at source, and any interest is tax-free. As far as the shekels are concerned, there is a discussion at the moment in the Aliyah, in Mizrahi Aliyah, to see whether they can also make the option also for Olim who invest in shekel investments not to pay tax. At the moment, that hasn't happened, but they can always open up a file in the tax authorities and try and get that tax back anyway, because they're entitled to receive the tax back. So why is it important to bring? I would argue, and I know I'm coming from a vantage point, but I believe from my experience of 35 years experience in banking, I have come across so many people who have originally not brought their money with them to Israel and have regretted not doing so. And therefore, I'd like to share this experience with you. It's very important, as I said before, it's prudent to match your living requirements to investments. In other words, if all your money is in dollars and you're living in shekels, then there's going to be a currency risk there, as we have found in this year. Anyone who had all their money, they may have made 20, 30% on their investments, but they may have lost 20% if the money was in dollars from a shekel point of view. The shekel value of those monies will be 20% less. So if they were then wanting to take this money and buy a property, they will have 15 to 20% less money on the shekel point to buy this property. As you have probably seen, almost all real estate property investments are in shekels, and therefore, because obviously now there are people. I won't sit here and tell you what I think is going to happen to this shekel dollar, because no one really knows. However, there is a school of thought that would suggest that the shekel dollar will continue to strengthen, particularly if, please God, the Israel and America are successful with Iran in this war, and we see a swift end to this war, and we see a change in the Middle East, we could certainly see more investment coming into Israel. As it is, we're seeing unbelievable investment today, both through the startup companies and through just investments in Israel. People are looking. Big companies are looking to bring to Israel their different departments. Their research and development R&D is an area which Israel is very strong with, and therefore many people are bringing their workers to opening up offices here in Israel, which therefore puts more strengthens the shekel stronger. So if we're looking today at 3.08 or 3.1, there are some people who are even looking at under 3, possibly to the dollar at one point. I can't tell you, I can't tell you if that's correct or not, but we certainly, if we want to be optimistic about this one, and there's every reason to be optimistic, then we could certainly see the shekel strengthening. To bring money to Israel, not only do you have the tax benefits, as I said, you do get the tax benefits, you also can receive investment advice in person. If you leave your money abroad, then the investment advice only comes from someone abroad. There's no, obviously, if you have your money outside the country in areas and jurisdictions which have time differences to Israel, then it can sometimes be more complicated to get in contact with one's investment advisor. Compliance information. When one of the big things when you bring money to Israel, and every Oleh Hadash has to know that, is that you will be asked about the source of funds of the money that you bring. This is something that in the past the banks weren't required to ask here. Unfortunately, this has become a way of life now. Everyone has to provide information. Now, when you make Aliyah, that information is readily available. You may have sold a property. You may have recently stopped working. If you only decide to bring money in, say, 5 to 10 years later, then you have a situation where you may not have that information available. If you may not necessarily have an accountant or a solicitor or a lawyer today who can actually write you a letter for the banks explaining the source of funds. And therefore, that's why I often advise customers to bring money in when they still have this information available to them. Also, having the money, if you bring the money to Israel, the money is close at hand and readily available. And also, I found with many of the foreign investment companies, their management fees are much, much higher than ones in Israel. We're talking about can be 20, 30, 40% higher, and sometimes even more than in Israel. And therefore, all those reasons, I would certainly recommend that you should look at bringing investments to Israel to take advantage of all these things. Two other issues I want to, things where there is a big difference between banking in Israel and banking in abroad. One of them is credit cards. Now, you may have come across this. Many of you may realize when we talk about credit cards abroad, we're talking about cards which actually provide credit. In Israel, there is no such thing as a credit card, and that is mainly because the people are expected to pay. In Israel, we live in a country where they're quite used to not living in credit, and therefore, if they were to use in Israel the same policy like they use abroad, where they rely on the customer to pay off his credit, then in many cases people would just build up a lot of credit and not pay it off, and therefore automatically the way it works in Israel is the banks will charge you. The credit card is only gives you credit till the next month. In other words, if I use it in the month of January, by the 10th or the 2nd or the 10th of February, I will be paying for all the usages I've used of the card. And so I have credit. So I do have credit. It's deferred debit, I should say, deferred debit card from the day of purchase until the day of payment, which will be a maximum of say 30 days to 40 days, no more than that. That's the maximum. And therefore, because of that, because the bank basically, when they offer you a credit card, they are basically guaranteeing that it's going to be paid. They will often ask the client to put money aside in order to cover the cost of a in other words, if you have a facility on your credit card for say 10 to 15, 20,000 shekel, they will ask you to put money aside to cover that on a monthly basis. In other words, every month you'll have a deposit of 20,000 shekel to cover the ongoing facility which they provided you with. Something else which is something unusual for Israel, which they don't have in many other countries, is the subject of tashlumim, payments. When you you buy yourself a kitchen or a dining room set, you'll be often offered the opportunity to pay it in payments. This is something which is not really available abroad. Abroad, everything tends to be paid off in one go. Here, the payments, you can split it up into 10, 15 payments, and they often allow you to put it on your credit card. But what you have to realize is that if let's say you have a credit facility on your card of say 30, 40,000 shekel, and you buy a dining room set for say 20,000 shekels, the whole 20,000 shekel will be taken off your credit facility, which means you'll only be left 10,000 shekels of your facility in order to spend that money on for future purchases. And therefore you have to take that into account if you decide to pay tashlumim, that's going to be taken off your credit facility. Because what's happened to many people is that they get offered these opportunity of spreading the cost over a number of months and don't realize that they're taking away their facility, and they suddenly find that the card has no facility left. They've used it all on the payments for these items, and therefore that's something you have to be very aware of in Israel. There are many topics I can talk about in banking. I'm happy to answer specific questions at this point. I've left on the last slide my information. Please feel free to call me, send me an email, send me a WhatsApp. This is a WhatsApp number as well. And I'll be happy to answer any questions that any of you have now or then at a later stage. I will open the forum. Are there any questions?
Yes, I have a few, which I typed in the chat here. You're talking about banking investments, and then you talked about bringing the money to Israel. Now, that's where I got a bit confused, because I'm not sure whether you're talking about investment or just savings.
Let me ask you, when you say savings and investments, how do you differentiate between savings and investments? Sorry, let me just understand what you mean.
Well, investments, I don't know, what are they, shares or something?
Investments can be, okay, right.
I'm just talking about money accrued in a savings account.
So you're talking about difference between deposits and stocks and shares. Is that what you're talking about? Maybe.
Well, I'm not interested in stocks and shares. I'm just talking about any money I've saved up.
Right.
You're saying bring it to Israel. Surely you don't mean in cash.
No, you do it. No, of course not. No, you do it as a bank. You open up. You do it as a transfer. You transfer. Nothing's done in cash. You transfer the money.
Can the bank help me with that transfer?
Of course, absolutely. Of course it can. Yes. Not only can they help you with, but this is something else which I didn't relate to. And thank you, Miriam, for raising this question, because it allows me to relate to another topic which is not on my presentation.
Well, I'm somebody with a lot less money, so I just use my income. And you mentioned credit cards. Do they have Visa debit cards in Israel?
They also have debit cards. Yes, absolutely. They have debit cards which allow. Yes, absolutely. Debit cards.
Not a regular debit card where you withdraw money from a machine. I'm talking about a Visa debit card.
A debit card where you're able to. I mean, the difference when we look at debit cards is where the money comes off immediately. Yes, we have those as well. I have debit cards.
Okay, I have a Visa debit card.
Yes.
The reason why I'm putting Visa on it is because originally there were no Visa debit cards. A Visa card just meant a credit card, and now somebody like me can get something like a credit card. This Visa debit card. So it's just a Visa card, but it's my money. So that I don't run into debt. So I just use that to buy pay for my groceries, buy things online, pay bills. So that's what I was curious about.
Okay.
I opened an account 27 years ago when I was in Sfat with
Okay.
Bank Mizrahi. After a week, they took 20 shekels out of my account. And I didn't have enough Hebrew to ask them, and they were a bit difficult to deal with. So I just took all my money out of the account and I came back to Australia. Would that account still be there, or would they have closed it?
I would have, if you took the money out, it's very, very, very unlikely that the account is still available. No, they would have closed it. It's very unlikely. The only scenario which I hope is not the case here, Miriam, is that
yes.
if you didn't close it properly, that they may be charging every month for usage of an account. That's something which I'm pleased you raised that point too, Miriam.
I hope not, because I won't be able to pay it.
No. I would assume not. But it's a good point you raised, and it's something you have to be used to in Israel. In Israel, as opposed to many countries in abroad, I'm not sure what it's like in Australia, but there are monthly charges on accounts. They work on a different type of basis. You can get slightly you can find sometimes a certain certain hanachot, certain type of reductions when it comes to the charges, but there will be charges for different transactions in Israel. That's how it works.
Okay, well, I haven't heard anything. They didn't have my Australian address, but they had my address in Sfat. And if they'd sent any letters there saying you owe us money, then I would think my old seminary would have sent them on.
I would assume so. I would assume. Yeah, I think you can assume. Are you living in Israel now, Miriam, or are you in Australia?
No, I'm in Australia.
What time is it?
To make Aliyah.
Wow.
Yes.
What time is it in Australia now?
Oh, it's about 1:45 in the morning.
Oh wow.
There's my little card.
Good morning to you. Oh wow. Okay.
It's in a I kept it as a souvenir. It's in a different name to what I use now, so
no, they won't find you probably.
Pardon?
They probably won't find you. You've probably gone anywhere. They've probably given up on you. I can't believe that the account is still open. I'm sure not. I wouldn't worry about that.
Banking's changed a lot. I used to work, you probably haven't heard of Westpac. It used to be the Bank of New South Wales.
Of course I've heard of Westpac. Absolutely. Yes.
I worked there many years ago in the ledger department. You probably don't have a ledger department anymore.
No, we don't have ledgers.
Or the old paper files.
No, absolutely not. I
all
think
on the computer now.
I've been working in banking almost 40 years, and I don't think there were ledgers in those days either, to be honest. Not really. Maybe they had, but possibly, but not much. They were
all the files. It was boring. But anyway, thank you for that. Maybe you're just used to people wanting to take out loans and that, but I just wanted to ask about just very basic things about banking for day-to-day living. Okay.
Absolutely. But because Miriam raised the topic here, I'd like to just mention it because I think it's another topic which I didn't relate to, and I think it's important to relate to. One of the problems people say about bringing money to Israel is the compliance here. It's very difficult to bring money. There are too many questions. Now, the answer to that, whilst I hear that comment made often, the truth is it isn't difficult to bring money to Israel, but it is necessary to have documentation put in ahead of time in place. The two things which are of interest to banks, to the banking system, shall we say, when you bring money in, is two issues. First, they want to understand the source of funds, and number two is they want to understand that tax has been paid at source. These are two issues which need to be related to. Now, this can be done very simply by providing a letter from an accountant or lawyer which says, basically, which relates to both of those issues, that Mr. and Mrs. Cohen have lived in America for, let's just an example, for many years, and they worked as a doctor and a nurse, whatever it is, in these different, and they earned, and their money, the monies or the investments they have raised over time has come as a result of taxed salaries over the 30 years or over 5 years or 10 years, or maybe sale of a property or whatever it is. If the letter says that, plus it says that it relates to the fact that tax has been paid, tax has been paid, then those things can be dealt with.
Is that only for a deposit over a certain amount? Sorry.
No, that's not for a deposit. That's not for deposit at all. That's for just bringing the money in. Well, that's to get the money in. Once you get the money's in, then you get deposits for all sorts of.
So even if I just had $100 I wanted to transfer, they still want to know where I got that from.
No, $100. I'm talking about larger amounts than that. $100. Probably no one for $100 they wouldn't probably be asking such a question. I don't think that. Yes.
I just wondered, would they accept my old bank statement?
Yeah, for $100 for sure. I'm talking about larger amounts. I don't think anyone would be worried about $100.
I just wondered what the minimum of that was, where they start asking about the source.
I'm not. It's not. I don't think there's a minimum or maximum. It's normally a case of where it's coming from. If it's something which is understandable, if it's not a large amount and it's coming from your personal account, then there's less questions asked. If it's coming from a separate account where they don't understand, let's say you have a company and you don't necessarily, they don't have the connection between the two, they may ask further questions from those type of things.
Okay. Yeah, it's just my personal account.
Yeah, I understand.
I'm just not sure how to transfer money to overseas accounts. That's where it gets a bit confusing. You need SWIFT codes and it's a bit beyond.
When you open an account, you receive wiring instructions, and it's very you just give them the instructions, and they know how to transfer from one country to the next. It's not a complicated process.
Wiring instructions. What do you mean? They want me to do that?
No. When you open an account in Israel, you get wiring instructions, and you give those to your bank in Australia, and they will then transfer it directly to the account that you've opened in Israel.
Oh, so it'll take a while then.
No, it's done. It's done all once the account's open. The transfer can be done within a day or two. It's not. It doesn't have to take much time.
Oh, but do they email the bank in Australia? How does that work?
No, they'll give it to you. They'll give you the wiring instructions, and then you provide the information to the bank in Australia. Let's say you open an account in Israel, and then you want to transfer money for your bank in Australia. You go to your bank in Australia and say, I'd like to transfer $1,000 from my bank. These are please transfer it to these details, and you give them the instructions of the bank in Israel, of the branch.
Well, in Israel. I can't do that if I'm not in Australia. I'm confused.
They won't take instructions for you by email.
Well, but then if I'm given the branch number, the account number, and the international SWIFT code for the new account.
Yes.
Then
what's the problem?
I don't need to contact the bank. Although I'm just not sure how to do that myself.
Wait a minute. Just so we understand each other. You open an account in Israel. You look to transfer $1,000 Australian dollars to your bank in Israel. You send instructions to your bank in Australia. You can send it by email normally. On the website, you send them the instructions. Please transfer $1,000 from my account in Australia to my new account in Israel. They will do the transfer for you.
Okay.
Okay.
I don't know that they will. They might think that's a bit strange.
Why would they think that?
Oh, there's just all this security now, and
well, I think you make arrangements with them beforehand to do so. It's something you can arrange with them beforehand, that they recognize you through security. All the banks work with different security instructions. I know for us, for instance, we have a very secure way of recognizing clients. We have a secure online system. So you send a message on the online system, which is secure. Okay. Are there any other questions?
Those numbers to call from overseas, they're terribly expensive. So
I don't know what to tell you.
Okay, I'll have to work it out when I get there. Even if I've got to go to the ATM machine, or I think you probably call it a cash point machine, and just withdraw out the cash every few days.
That's not the best way of doing it. I think there's better ways of doing it than that. That's a very expensive way of working, to be honest. I wouldn't recommend that. It's expensive to do it that way.
Okay. All right. Or apparently there are well, but you're saying it could all be done in one go.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Yes. I'll send large amounts, not small amounts.
You're probably not going to explain it to me properly now here anyway.
You can send me an email offline if you need, okay?
Okay. It's probably not going to it's just not making any sense to me now at the moment until I could. Okay.
Contact me offline on my email and I'll try to see if I can help you. Okay?
All right. Thank you.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Is there any other questions? Are there? Asya?
No, I think that's all.
How many people are still on this? How many people are with us?
14. 14.
14. Okay. How many people were there with us all in all?
אני אשמח אם תוכל לשלוח לי מצגת ואני אעביר לכל מי שנרשם, okay? So I asked from Johnny to send me as a presentation. I will send for all of you who are registered in our questionnaire. And it's only to say to Johnny, really, really thank you for a wonderful lecture, for knowledge, and for all of you, the quiet evening. And that's all.
Thank you, Asiya, for organizing this. And if anyone has any more questions, please feel free to contact me offline or call me or send me an email, and I'll be happy to help them. In one lecture, you don't have the ability to cover every topic.
Of course, yeah.
So I was trying to give a general understanding, and hopefully it was clear enough for everyone to understand. Anyway, thank you very much for your time and for listening.
Thank you very much, Johnny.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a nice
Bye-bye. My
Have
pleasure.
a good day.
Thank you.
Have a nice, quiet day.